We have to do something. We have to do it now.
I had 2 weeks to write the script. We had about a month and a half to cast and prep, and then we filmed all the dialogue in 4 days, and we filmed everything else in the movie, every other video, in another 4 days. And so we essentially did the movie in a week, and then we started editing it right away, which was around the second week of October 2016. And we had our first cut December 1st, but then we continued the editing process for another year. This was it took me sort of 2 days of editorial to realize that I'd actually made an animated film. And all I'd really done is I'd captured the live action elements of that animated film, and now we had to animate the film. Because everything that you see on the screen, everything that makes it look like a computer, the way that the mouse moves, every single element of that is animated in post-production. So it's an enormous task. It sort of also became this incredible playground because I realized the mutability of Screenlife. It sort of didn't become clear to me until we were into that first cut, and I saw that we could take 3 sequences of the film, for example, that happen one and then the next and the next. They could actually all happen concurrently. They could happen at the same time.
So getting audience feedback is a really important part of creating Screenlife films. With Searching, for example, we screened the entire pre-visualization of the movie for friends and for the crew before we even shot a frame. And that allowed us to get feedback in terms of what parts of the story were clear, what parts of the story were not clear, and allowed us to really make the best use of photography. And then in the post-production process, it's also important always to get audience feedback throughout the editorial process, because there may be some liberties we take with the format, and some audience members may not notice, and some audience members may say, hey, that's not believable, you can't do that. And sometimes we need that audience feedback to really rein in what is something we should do or shouldn't do with the format.
We have 2 sets. We have one set is what you see behind the character, for example, or front of the camera. And second, we have another process is how to design the screen of the character, because what we see on the screen is as important, it's maybe more important in Screenlife than the design of the physical space, because everyone has a different taste, and some people has a lot of messy folders on the screen, some people has very organized screens, and some likes to bright background, some likes dark, and this all details are very important because it tells who we are.
I want to feel safe, and I don't. This is a terrible idea.
And also sometimes even the transformation of the character is like from the beginning. For example, our hero has a very messy and cluttered desktop, and then at the end when he changed, then suddenly his desktop is different and he's organized and there's clean and only 2 folders, and he begins the new life, for example. This is a primitive example of the idea how your screen could tell the story of transformation of the character.
You have this unique opportunity when you're dealing with Screenlife to get a glimpse of what's happening in the main character's head. That's almost impossible to make it happen with any other technique. Because this way you can see the character's desktop, you can see what he's typing, basically you can see what he's thinking without actually saying anything out loud. So it's a completely new way of giving you this powerful insight of what's happening inside the main character's head, what he's up to, what he's thinking about.
cinematic experience, if you will, comes from the full finished film. So on set, we shot all the footage of the people on camera talking to Skype, for example. That's one small part, really, of the entire experience. The rest of the experience is the whole desktop. So Facebook and chat messages and all the other things like the Spotify and music. And so when all those things come together, then I think you have a cinematic experience, because you have people talking to each other, but then you have somebody else, so there's subtext, there's things going on, somebody's texting while they're having a conversation. You see all this as an audience member, and that's what's really interesting, is everything together is what makes it, I think, cinematic and something enjoyable to watch, entertaining.
For directors who want to get into the Screenlife genre, I'd say, watch all of the Screenlife movies that have been made so far, and watch a lot of found footage movies and really look for the differences between them, because they really are two discrete things, and they should be. And I think, a Screenlife movie that can be done found footage style isn't really a Screenlife movie. I think Screenlife, finding the sort of new avenues that no one has really explored in using apps, using things that that people are familiar with when they sit down with their phones, they sit down with their computers, or they sit at home with their smart TVs or whatever it is. Find what's new, figure out something that no one has ever tried before, or something no one's ever done before. And the great thing about that is that you don't have to wait for anybody's permission to do it. Most of filmmaking is challenging, especially for people who are trying to break in, because they need other people's permission. It's a very, very expensive process. It takes an army of people. Found footage is easier, and arguably elements of Screenlife are even easier than that. So I think don't hesitate. Start exploring it and see if you can carve your own unique corridor, because believe me, I would love to see it, and everyone who's made one of these movies would love to see it. And a lot of people who are giant movie fans and are always looking for something that's different would love to see it too.
For filmmakers that are looking to use the Screenlife technology and this way of filmmaking, I think it's really important to look first for stories. Don't think of this as a tool to tell a story, but look for stories that can only be told using these screens and using these cameras built into these existing devices. And I think with that, you'll have the most success telling really unique, innovative, and relatable stories.